All right, guys, we're on to key issue 3 of chapter 2. Basically, what we're looking at this time is what's called the demographic transition model. And it sounds a lot scarier than it is, and it looks a heck of a lot scarier than it is, but I promise you it's very, very easy to understand if you pay attention. Okay, so the first thing, there's 4 stages, okay, potentially 5, but we'll get into that later, okay? Stage 1 is low growth. All right, this is what happens at the very beginning of a civilization. This is very high birth rates and very high death rates. So basically what happens is there's no natural increase because you got a lot of people being born, you got a lot of people dying, okay? There is no country in the world today that is in stage 1, all right? The primary reason for this is what's called the medical revolution, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like, okay? If the Industrial Revolution provided industry all over the world, the medical revolution did the exact same thing, but with medicine. So now we have countries in what's called stage 2, which is high growth. Okay, you've got rapidly declining death rates because medicine is preventing people from dying, but you've got very high birth rates, so you've got a huge natural increase rate. All right, stage 2 is what's going to be a majority of sub-Saharan Africa, and the main reason for this is because there's not a lot of education, specifically for women who are having all the children. And so that's what needs to be occurring in order to get out of stage 2. Now you get into stage 3, you've got decreasing growth. All right, birth rates are rapidly declining, death rates continue to decline, and the natural increase rate begins to moderate. Okay, so that's what you're sort of hoping for. But then you get to stage 4, which is low growth. This is about as high as it can be. This is what the United States is. This is what most of Western Europe is. And so basically what you have here is very low birth rates and very low death rates. So you've got no natural increase. So this is similar to stage 1, where you've got low growth and low growth. Okay, but the difference is you've got very low birth rates and death rates instead of very high birth rates and death rates. Okay, so when we see this in action, all right, let's look at one that's got stage 4. So we see stage 1, okay, we're looking for our birth rates to be high and our death rates to be high. Okay, both of these are high. But as soon as our death rates start to drop, okay, you know we've entered stage 2. Our birth rates stay the same, but our death rates begin to drop. That's how you know that you're in stage 2, high growth. Okay, so you see your population start to spike in stage 2 because your birth rate stays the same, your death rate declines. Okay, once your birth rate starts to decline, you see it right here. It's steady, and then bang, it drops. You've entered stage 3. All right, but it's declining. Your death rates are still declining. Once they even out, you're in stage 4. Okay, so if you need to rewatch that part a couple times so that you understand it, I would recommend it. But the stages are very, very easy to look at, and we'll look at it a lot in class. Okay, so you can sort of see the stages of development based on population pyramids as well, because right here you've got a lot of people dying, okay, but you've got a lot of people being born. So they've probably entered stage 2 relatively recently, because you see these people starting to grow old, but predominantly you've got a lot of young people, not a lot of education going on, a lot of births happening. So that's what you've got in Cape Verde. All right, so you look at declining birth rates. When you look at this, you want to look at these main 2 things. I would summarize these 2 things: lowering birth rates through education and healthcare, and then lowering birth rates through contraception. Okay, one thing that you're going to be quizzed over is the best way to lower birth rates, and it's not through abstinence only. Okay, the best way to reduce birth rates is not only through abstinence, but also through contraception. So again, when we're talking about maps in this chapter, you're going to see a lot of Africa being lit up. And so when we see this one, it's crude birth rate decline. So this is good, right? We're seeing a decline in crude birth rate in Africa. So that means that we're going to level out a little bit. But if you remember the Hans Rosling video that we watched, it needs to level out a lot more. Otherwise, our population is completely unsustainable. Same thing here, percent of women using family planning, okay? That's basically like contraception, that kind of stuff. So if you look at the United States, it's dark. South America, it's dark. Western Europe, Australia, those are the main places that you want to look at. Anytime the United States is lit up, chances are so is Western Europe, so is Australia. Okay. Africa, on the other hand, we're seeing below 25% of these women using family planning. And so that's why you're going to see these populations just spike like crazy. Okay, so Malthus. All right, we're going to watch a video on this in class. If we don't, you guys should probably watch it yourself, but it's a crash course. I'll probably make it worth points on the menu if you guys watch it. But Malthus on population says that basically you guys should read this and try to summarize them yourself. But basically he says that the resource depletion is happening quicker than our population growth. So our population is growing to be too large for our natural resources. And so basically he's saying that we as a species are unsustainable. Not a single country, just as a species, humans are unsustainable. Okay, and if you see this, he's saying, look, our population is spiking like crazy and our resources are not spiking like crazy. However, there's a lot of people who have a problem with Malthus because basically he claimed that we would never get better at making food, that we'd never get better at making resources. And that's not the case. We've gotten significantly better at doing that. And so because we've gotten better at doing that, we're able to support a larger population. However, it's unclear whether or not we're ever going to be able to deal with the population size that we have. We need to institute all of the things necessary to get these countries to stage 3 and stage 4 of the development cycle. Otherwise, stage 2 is completely unsustainable. All right, we're going to talk about Japan in class. This is another thing that you guys can do on the menu, and we're talking about their declining population. Okay, here's their population pyramid in 1950, right? If you remember from Key Issue 2, you don't want a pyramid to actually be a pyramid because then your population that you're having to take care of is too large, and the population that can actually take care of them is not large enough. Okay, so here's what it is in 2010. This is pretty solid. But you can already see the problem coming in, right? They're having way fewer kids. So when this population gets up to here, there's not going to be enough people to take care of them. And that's what they're predicting, okay? In 2050, we've got an upside down pyramid, and that's not good, okay? You don't want a pyramid at all. You basically want it to be a column. And so since that's not the case here, that's going to be a problem for them moving forward. So we need to figure out a way to fix that. All right, stage 5 is the last possible demographic transition. I don't know why it's all blurry right now. But stage 5 is the last possible demographic. And basically what it says is that we see a population decline. So this is what's happening in Japan. This is what's happening in Russia. This is what's happening in some areas in Eastern Europe where they're having more people die than they're having being born. The same thing is true in China right now. They're introducing all sorts of population policies that are limiting the number of babies being born, and so this is drastically changing the population and the demographic transition. So I would recommend looking at this. We're going to talk about India and China in class if we have the time. So you want to make sure that you've looked at both of these and summarized their 2 different policies so that you understand when we talk about it in class. Okay, so just as a quick recap, you want to make sure that you've gotten down demographic transition model, what stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 look like. You want to definitely make sure that you talk about the 2 ways that you can have birth rates decline. You want to talk about Malthus. You want to talk about Japan. And then you want to talk about China and India in stage 5. All right?